It's time now to review the headlines of today's newspapers, and we are going to start with this day.
All right, this day, the newspaper of record, the lead story is on the sad killings in Plateau. The headline says, Plateau killings, death toll hits 52 as more corpses are recovered. And the writers, government says suspects arrested. Article blames killings across Nigeria on failed security architecture. I mean, we spoke about this earlier in...
I will have to agree with the former vice president. There's
failure of security.
Failure of security architecture down to our local government area.
I hope that people will, people in authority will rise to the occasion and let's even hear that the government is paying attention before the government is being reminded that number one and number two are out of the country, at the same time. But it's not looking good in Plateau.
On a working visit to France and on a working visit to Senegal, is it?
No, Senegal it's a
celebration. Yes,
celebration.
I mean, I guess it's still work. I'd like to travel for work too. I hope our boss can hear me. But I think it's very important here because particularly when we're looking at the security situations that are getting worse across the Sahel region, spreading as land is getting scarcer. I think we really need to come and think about if we want to have a proper future in this country or if we want to normalize this type of violence. The security apparatus and the security architecture must build. They must build it. Like it's a crisis.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we shouldn't also forget the unending menace of kidnappings.
Yes.
Practically everywhere. I hope that Nuhu Ribadu, the National Security Advisor, will have a strategy to address it. It has become almost an ecosystem, an enterprise, that people are basically benefiting from. It cannot continue like this.
Definitely.
All right, let's move on. The second lead story, as we would say in the newsroom, on top of the main story, that's on Akpabio, and the Senate president here is saying Akpoti Uduaghan lied. I never plotted assassination. And then the rider suspension. Court restrains Senate president, Kogi senator, others from speaking with the media. I think that's a story that Kachi might want to read so that you get the import of why this may not necessarily constitute gagging them. But to ensure that...
You want to just expand on that?
No, I'm saying that that's what the story is saying. You remember that you raised the issue of why are they... that it looks like this will affect only Natasha because she's the one, basically speaking, exactly. But of course, Akpabio is also speaking, whether he's speaking through press releases or through his aides or something, like he has just done now, saying that the senator lied, that he never planned assassination. If there are issues that can be resolved in the Senate, let them approach the court. That would be the ideal thing to do. But all this drama, all this brickbats, all this back and forth, mudslinging in interviews, maybe that should give way, to proper legal intervention either in the Senate.
Because there's a very important story on the Punch. Is there?
Sorry?
I said
the same thing on the...
No. The story on the Punch is a story we were discussing earlier there.
Okay, should we go to Punch?
Can we get the Punch up? So Punch, the headline on the Punch, stolen jewelry.
Stolen jewelry? Yeah,
yes. Patient Jonathan's ex-aide rot in jail as court adjourns case 40 times. The writer there says, we've been suffering in prison for 6 years. Domestic workers cry out. Now, yes, this has to do with the former First Lady of Nigeria, so it's going to grab headlines. But as a lawyer who has been to some, jails and prisons in Nigeria, I can tell you that this story is not odd, is not unique. We have so many people in our system who are facing adjournment of cases, who are in prison for years on end without actually facing, without getting justice. Justice is supposed to be timely according to our laws. However, we have thousands, probably hundreds and thousands of Nigerians across the country who have been in jail or prison for years without actually being found guilty. Right. And I think that is something that Nigerians should should really, really be upset about?
It's like you just used the right word, being upset. We cannot cherry pick when the law should work and when it should not. We cannot do that. We have cases like, what we're seeing in the Senate. There's such swift action. Justice Ndiako was very swift in a response to say, this is what it should be. No more press conferences. The courts, the federal high court in the FCT, there's very quick responses to cases. But with cases like what we're looking at now, it looks as though, there's such a dilemma in figuring out what needs to be done and what should not be done, especially against, the constitution of the country. Yeah. So when you see a case where on one hand, there is a swift response and it looks as though, the courts are so timely in what they do. And then on another hand, there's almost a sleeping court. It's an exhausting situation and you cannot trust the judiciary. You just cannot, because you cannot cherry pick what cases to attend to and what cases you shouldn't. And I also think this is also a note to Patience Jonathan to say, this is her case and she should say something. And it's been it's not even an argument.
40 adjournments.
It is ridiculous.
40 adjournments.
I get your point. We don't have time. I would have loved to look at what the admonition from the Guardian.
Yes, I love that. Politicians, stop naming things after yourselves. Stop naming projects after yourself. Stop putting your face on rice bags. Stop putting your
public assets.
Yes, public assets.
Personal monuments. It's fantastic.
It is an important. Everybody should go and read that article, and it's a conversation that needs to keep happening because if
you don't like that,
I do
you
not.
That during the home front. What's the situation?
Let's hope that people will listen.
You take Nigerian taxpayer money and then you name it after yourself.
Unacceptable.
Unacceptable.
Totally unacceptable.
It is not.
All right, we have to go. That brings us to the end of the morning show today. Thank you for watching and do stay safe. I'm Steve Ayorinde.
And what's that principle of fairness? Do unto others as you would like to be done to you. I'm Kachi Ophir, so great to have shared your delightful company on the morning show. See you all tomorrow.
Well, I'm Adesua Giwal-Sage from my entire team here in Lagos, Nigeria. Enjoy the rest of your morning and, of course, the rest of your day.